I didn't know that. So is that a fact?
This was the advert for the R8, and it's on a dyno. Legal reasons, you're not allowed to show cars going fast. This is a performance car. Yeah, it's a fact.
You can't show it going. That's why in everyone they're just pulling into a drive. Or
and there's always a thing at the bottom, driven by professional drivers on a closed road, etc., blah, blah, blah.
Ho, 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 how are you, my friends from the UnEDited Marketing Podcast? Yes, as you can tell if you're watching it or listening to that ho, 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 it's almost Christmas. So I'm coming to you live from the Black Box studio to hit you up with another edition. This one was filmed and recorded way back at the middle of the year. It's Tom Grimshaw, who heads up dealer engagement and marketing for Suzuki, which is a brand I've worked with a lot in the past. And Tom is a brilliant guest because what this one's about, not only do we dig into all things automotive from a marketing and sales perspective, but we also look at that tension between the sales and marketing teams. We understand better how a big organization like Suzuki fuels its forecourts with the right information and right marketing materials. We also dig into Tom's ascendance through actually a sales background working with dealerships all the way through into the key European marketing team at Suzuki. So it's absolutely packed with information, tips and stories from the front line of automotive marketing. And make sure you listen along to the end when we unpick some of Tom and my own favorite adverts of all time. And of course, Louie, who is in the background hovering behind this camera, we have another Louie's lightning round. So if you're listening to this before Christmas, I hope you have a brilliant time and we'll see you at the next episode. But for now, the only thing I have to say, apart from ho ho ho, is sit back, relax, and let's get ready for another unedited conversation. Hi everybody, welcome to another unedited conversation with me, your host Ed Gould, and today we are talking all about relationships, and we're looking at it through the lens of the auto trade with our friend Tom Grimshaw. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
Look, it's a pleasure. And we were talking off camera that you're saying, look, I might go on a bit or I might not do it. It's unedited. It doesn't matter, as we talked about. But I always like to kick off by just saying, look, introduce yourself, what you do, what your special power is, where you work and stuff like that so our listeners can understand.
Great. Thanks very much. Excited to be here. So thanks very much for the invite. I'm Tom. I'm a petrolhead. It sounds like a weird AA meeting.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I'd be more interested in like the AA, the van that comes out to see you with a broken down car. Not that happens in Suzuki, obviously. I'm a petrolhead. I'm in automotive marketing. I've been in that for a long time now. I just love cars, basically. Special powers. Oh God, I wish I had one. The massive plate spinner that we are in marketing in the day. Dad and husband, car tinkerer by night. So plate spinner, I think.
Plate spinning on both
plate spinner
sides.
Is my superpower. Yeah.
Okay,
it's gonna look rubbish on a costume.
Look, the plate spinning bit, I think we all recognise. Anyone that's listening to this and they're thinking, well, I'm in marketing. If you're not spinning plates, you're probably not doing it right, and it's always a challenge. But I think what I was really interested to dig into with you and what we talked about was you are specialising in a very specific area, and you mentioned the company you work for. But can you tell us a little bit about the company that you work for, or the brand, and also what your specific role is within that?
Yeah. So I work for Suzuki GB. Our head office is in Milton Keynes, and I particularly work in our cars division, our four-wheel division. And I am the dealer marketing manager for the UK and Ireland as well.
And so that dealer piece, and the reason I'm interested to get into this for the listeners is because everybody needs a community. That's what we're doing within marketing. We're trying to build these tribes and communities that we can engage with and sell to and etc. But it's a little bit different in your space because you're selling to the seller, as it were. And then you're having to motivate those relationships and get value out of those relationships for the brand. So why don't we kick off by how do you end up doing dealer that relationship piece for the dealer? Where did you start, and what was the sort of journey for you as a marketeer?
Wow. Okay. So I've always been in and around a dealership one way or another. My part-time job going way back, whilst I was at university, was in a dealership. I was helping to sell motorbikes, a weekend in and around courses, etc. And I've basically been between a dealership, within the four walls of that, to marketing agencies, quite a few marketing agencies with automotive clients, and I've been very lucky to have some great clients along the way as well. Then back into the franchise network, which is where I was before Suzuki coming in as dealer marketing manager. And I've kind of had a hat of all, pretty much always marketing, but periods of sales as well. So I understand not only what it means in a dealership to be doing the marketing yourself, you're trying to attract customers and leads ultimately for the business that you're working in, for the people who are paying your wages. That's your job. That's what you're there to do. But then I've sat there as a salesperson as well with the customer in front of you. Then I've worked with the manufacturers, their support, trying to help them come up with campaigns for head office or for their marketing department. Trying to help them come up with their marketing department ideas to help their dealers get customers in. So there's that side of the fence. And then I'm over on the other side of the fence now, kind of giving that steer instead.
So it's always been in and around auto because you're a petrol head.
Yeah.
Favourite car? You got to say Suzuki.
Favourite car? I'm in my company car at the moment, Suzuki Swace. It's a great car.
If it wasn't a Suzuki, what would you pick?
Oh, that is a good one. I currently have a Ford Mustang.
As a runabout.
As a runabout. I wish, yeah. Which is just great. It's the third one I've had greedily, which is a more modern one, and I've had two classics before. So I live somewhere between modern performance and some good old classics as well.
So you're working in a space that you've got a genuine interest in. It's something you're passionate about, and that's often hard to do in marketing.
They say do what you love, and I love
work
cars,
a day in the world. Yeah.
So
So the agency, so you we'll get into the Suzuki bit in a bit, but when you're working in agencies and you're representing other auto brands as well, what sort of stuff were you working on?
So I've been either in a dealer marketing agency team. So it's funny because I've kind of done the role that my dealer marketing agency does for me. I've been them, as it were. Not that I ever play that, card, or I've done what you do, because nothing is more annoying than somebody's doing that. I absolutely don't. Hopefully it's why they really like me. Please.
Write in if you work with them and you don't agree with that statement.
I've worked a lot around that. I've worked with influencers in terms of social, in terms of owners' clubs and forums. I was lucky enough to work with Audi for a bit of time with a big London agency as well. And my role there was gathering up a lot of insights from the actual customers. So how do we feed kind of the passion for the actual owners into the next campaign? And it's even more fun when you see that come to life through like the next TV advert, and the research that you put in has helped put that together. And then obviously you sit and watch what happens afterwards. Not the fallout from it, but the reactions, because it gets to them, because that passion element obviously has a massive thing to do with it. And the more you're spending on a car, especially in the realms of Audi,
you need to be passionate.
You need to be passionate. You're buying that. If you're buying a £100,000 R8, that's because you really want it. But you are in a competitive sector. Then there are other supercars are available, as it were.
And it is a crowded market, and there is a lot of brands in auto, and it's very rare that new ones break through. Obviously, in the last sort of 20 years, the electric revolution is sort of bringing those new brands to bear. But there are niche producers and manufacturers, and my reading of it is that that's increasing in terms of the competition for the OEMs, that those sort of big brands that we all knew and loved. I would love to know, though, just because I've only just learnt your agency side as well, what's your experience? How would you read the agency versus in-house, and what's your take on that? Because that's often a common question I ask someone. I've only ever been agency, so I'm always really interested. What the differences are, why you made the jump. How do you read that one?
It's a great question.
That's what I'm paid for.
Yeah.
I'm not paid, but it's what I do it for.
Agency is something I always wanted to do, and I probably worked at about 5 or 6.
Okay.
With varying clients, pretty much all manufacturer, automotive manufacturers. Agency side versus client side, it's nice, when I clock off on a Friday, that's pretty much me me done until Monday morning.
As in in-house?
In-house, yeah. Whereas agency, I found myself tending to keep plugging away because I wanted to try and get that bit more ahead on Monday. Hopefully that experience means that I provide better briefs to my agency. I'm more tolerant is probably the wrong word.
We prefer people that have worked in agency to no offence to anyone I work with that's never been there, but there is a level of understanding.
You understand how a studio works, how resource timing works, getting your briefs in on time, and if you don't, somebody else is waiting. So I aim to try and provide as much of that to my agency to help them, because ultimately it helps me.
Well, they're there to make you look good.
No,
and if you don't give them the information, they haven't got much of a chance of doing that.
You can't do it.
Is there anything you miss from agency life that you don't get in-house?
I mean, no one brings round a trolley full of beer and wine at 3:00 on a Friday. So there's no wine down, unfortunately.
Now, at time of recording, it is about 12 on a Friday. So 1. Actually, we're only a couple of hours off the tea trolley, the beer trolley.
I can't hear it yet, no.
And anything else you miss from in terms of the variety, or is it?
Yeah, variety is definitely a big one. You know, it's rare in an agency that you only have one client, ultimately. And that does help because it allows your brain to kind of think about something else. You might suddenly just think of a random idea for something else, and that is a lot of fun.
I depend on that.
Yeah,
all of my good ideas come from thinking about something else, and they're usually someone else's idea.
Someone else's ideas, yeah. But
you're just transforming them and transposing them into different spaces, and I think that's why I get my kicks. It's an interesting conundrum, especially at the moment with the marketing sector as a whole going under such revolution. You've got all sorts of technologies changing things, and it always has. But there are typically agency people and in-house people. So I always love talking to someone that's done both. So that's interesting. But the main event for today is really getting into this idea of and I think we start with this dealer relationship piece, and then we'll come back to some of the big brand campaigns that have happened at Suzuki that you've been working on. But I really want to get into the weeds of, as a marketeer, what does the challenge look like day to day with trying to engage I think there's 130 dealers out there for Suzuki. What's the approach? What's the strategy? How do you nurture good relationships? And are there some lessons that we can take away from that we can apply to our work in our communities and stuff like that? So how do you begin on that? What's the approach for the dealer network?
What's the approach? I mean, funnily enough, we live in a world of marketing where we're always talking to people. That's what we do, and communication really is key. And that sounds really obvious and potentially quite stupid, to be honest. But when I started, our dealer engagement with our marketing portal, which I'll probably talk about more very soon, was about 50%. And when our network was a little bit bigger at that time, so a lot of people not using it. That thing costs money, not only to exist, but to have things added to it. Well, why is no one engaging with it? And the first bit of work that I set myself basically with our agency was, we need to get more people using this. If they're not, why not? Let's talk to people. I'm proud to say that within about 3 months or so, we went from 50 to 90%, and we've hung around.
They were probably all going on there, go, who's this guy that keeps bothering me about this?
Who's this guy? What does he want?
But hey,
just do it. Just shut him up. Just do it.
It gets a result. And I've had some experience of these sorts of things. Sometimes there's a sort of assumption that if you build it, they will come. I've never really bought into that Wayne's World sort of mentality to it. So there's millions of corporate portals, intranets, back-end systems, dealer networks, franchise networks, and if you're sitting there as a franchise, this applies to you, and you're wondering why is no one engaging with it. It's because you just sat there thinking that they should do what you've done, and so you actually went out and asked them.
Yeah.
What did you find out on that journey? Did they just not know it's there? Did they not understand the benefits? Did they make you change anything about it?
All of the above, to be honest. I was staggered at the time of how many people said, "Oh, I didn't know it was there." People change, people leave. They might have had a login for it and they forgot to put that in a handover, or whatever happens. Or no, that's Fred in the corners. That's his job. Well, Fred, what are you doing? Oh no, I don't do that anymore. I'm a different role now, and I was surprised. So the first thing was, let's tell the people all about it.
And from a strategic point of view, Suzuki is a Japanese brand how does that work in terms of the central brand in Japan, and then how that then translates into territories like EMEA, UK? What's the actual sort of framework of Suzuki in that sense to get down to where you are in terms of UK and Ireland?
So we have our overall, company, SMC, Suzuki Motor Corporation Japan. They will obviously have control of all the cars that are launching and everything else, which is great. With that, they give you assets. They have their own portal of, glorious images and videos and everything like that. So they will supply you as much as they can, as much information. But it's your job then as the territory for us in GB to then translate that to our market. And they're really good at having those kind of conversations. Something like when the Swift launch, they had an advert pre-recorded and ready to roll. But they gave us the freedom to launch our own one, re-record our own one that fit within our good different brand and CI to keep the momentum going for good different and roll on to what comes next. So they're open to the conversation, but it is about that conversation and the respect as well. And that's a great thing about working with a Japanese manufacturer is the respect.
How does that manifest itself in day-to-day working, that respect piece? They understand that you've got a specific job to do in your area and you...
Yeah. Respect and trust. Even one of our meeting rooms is called Respect. Our meeting rooms are named after some of our values within the business.
I'm sure many listeners have been into value-led meeting rooms in their lives.
Oh, yes. I mean,
there's a difference between naming a room something, though, and it playing out in the behaviour of the actual organisation. And my very small experience of working with Suzuki is it plays all the way through. And that isn't blowing air because if it didn't, I've got nothing to lose. I don't work for them at the moment. I'd say it how it is, but I found it quite an interesting experience working with the Marine Department through there, and I could feel it coming through. I guess the observation I'd make from what you said is the relationship you have with Suzuki home base. There's some similarities to the dealers to you.
Yeah.
You're trying to tool them up through this hub of information. But they also need to translate it into their own local, Bob from West Lavington might have a specific way of working with his customer base. So when you think about that, your approach to that dealer engagement, you've inherited this tool that sits there. What have you done in the time you've worked there to layer that up with other activity to sort of allow them that respect and sort of work with them in that way? How's that played out?
It's been a journey through lack of a better words, to be honest. 1st of July, last month now, 1st of August, aren't we? 1st of July, we launched a new portal to give the dealers more features, easier access, easier to find assets, and it will provide better insights as well. What I found throughout all of this is time. And I really think you get a better understanding of that working in an agency as well, because really you're selling time and expertise. And I mean that in the most respectful way as well. But you are buying, an allocated number of hours from an expert in their field, whether that's a designer or a developer or an account manager. They're doing a dedicated job for you, and it's about time. And what we find in the network is that people don't always have time. We have a big disparity between dealers who have dedicated marketing resource, and we also have lots of family-owned businesses, which is lovely. The name above the door. There's probably someone in the corner of the room who's got that surname, and that's great. And honestly, they are some of the nicest people I have ever met. But they don't have time for everything because it's their business. They might be helping to sell a car. They might be helping to wash one because that's helpful and it needs to be done. And they might be doing a bit of marketing. Well, now they've got less time. Do they know exactly what to do within that time? What should they do? How much should they spend on it? So what we've tried to do is provide more easy to activate marketing that's the right thing to do, because they don't have time. So let us take that away from them.
And I guess you've got a bit of an insight, having sat within a dealership, having to do that job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are the top 5 things that they're worried about and they should be doing from a marketer? What are those things that are most critical to a marketeer on the dealer end of it?
On the dealer side is first of all, what should I do? And being part of a sales team and being kind of an acting sales manager as well. you might be sat there thinking, oh, I've got some time. I'm going to do the next email blast out to our customers with the latest offer on. Great. You're doing that. And then somebody runs in from the sales team and says, oh, I need a valuation on this part exchange, please. Because they've got a customer at their desk. And that's a live situation. You have to deal with that. The customer comes first. We're all here to sell cars. And then you get back to it. Oh, what was I doing again? Oh, shit, it's timed out. Like, oh, I've got to start again. Oh, they want something else.
Yeah.
And it's time and what they should be doing. That's the first thing that a lot of them say to me. It's like, well, what should I be doing then?
So do you work with them on marketing plans? Do you actually become a strategic partner, a trusted advisor in that relationship?
Yeah, we try to help and support however we can. We do ask for planners. And it's a planner that we've developed over time to give more prompts as well. So rather than sitting there at the beginning of a quarter and saying, oh, what should I do this quarter? Here's a starter list. These are some activities that are a good idea to do. So that kind of ticks the box of what should I do? How much should I spend? That's usually a next one.
Yeah, I guess a lot of these people, certainly on advertising and paid for and Accelerate, they've got no idea. They might have, and this is jumping to conclusions, but in the one end to the other of that spectrum, it might be someone just doing some Facebook ads all the way up to fully programmatic campaigns at a high level. Do you have to sort of guide them through all of that in some instances, or do you?
In some instances, but again, as we touched on, it's kind of, we try and steer as much as we can, but at the end of the day, you've got to do the doing. We're trying to help and support you and guide you in that area, so that if you are going to spend the time doing it, it's the right thing to do, but you've got to do it ultimately. I will say that's been a big challenge throughout it, and we've still not got it perfect. I'll admit that. And we're trying to.
I think anyone that comes on here and says they've nailed it, I will call out immediately. I mean, no, we're all trying to learn from that. A good marketeer is constantly evolving and changing based on the feedback they're getting from the audience they're working with. And I guess you probably get quite open feedback quite easily, because these guys, it's their businesses. It's not like a customer relationship where they might say it behind your back. So I bet they're coming to you saying, this is crap, or this is great, or can we have more of this? Yeah,
they do. And we encourage that.
Yeah.
The door is always open. And we say that, I was out visiting some people earlier this week, and I kind of said to them, our meeting's finished for today, but if you think something tomorrow, next week, next month, you've got my email address, you've got the team, please talk to us. If you want something, you don't have time to make it, we'll do it for you. It'll be right then, it'll be fully on CI. The brand guardians will love that. But it's going to perform for you, it's going to work. And you can spend your time elsewhere.
Do you track? I'm just thinking, if I was listening to this and I was thinking, well, I've got a franchise, or I've got a bunch of partners, or they're, channel resellers is a common one for B2B brands as well. Like they might be reselling tech or software. But do you track the is your CRM like littered with every single engagement that you're having with them? Do you have targets against how many times we're keeping in touch with these people, or is it more organic in this sort of community?
A bit more organic in some respects, but we do measure, we send them newsletters, and we track how many people are opening them.
So if you looked through a campaign and you saw that Bob from that one hasn't opened one in 6 months, would that be a red flag and do something about it? Or?
Yeah, we'll probably ring Bob. What's it? Yeah. Is Bob still there? Is Bob okay?
Bob might be dead.
Poor Bob.
Yeah.
Well, who's doing it instead of Bob? Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's doing it instead
Bob's
of you now? And we'll talk to them instead.
But that kind of engagement and that CRM piece and that sort of continual, that's really where you add value into that marketing mix, I guess, because I'm thinking back, and other who shall remain nameless, but I have worked with franchises that have a similar sort of challenge, and they put their head in the sand. They almost don't want to listen to the bad news from the franchise and the franchisees or the dealerships or the partners. They create challenges, but they were getting that wrong, because the more you put your head in your sand, the less likely they're going to be selling for you, which is ultimately you're there to get them to sell more stuff, I guess.
Pretty much. And it's two ways. I talked before about our values in the meeting room names. We have what's called a plan on a page, which is great. And in the top corner of that, it says together towards tomorrow. No, sorry, that's totally the wrong way. What is
Edit this bit. It's called UnEDited, but he can't get the tagline of Suzuki wrong. He'll get in real trouble.
Together towards tomorrow.
That's it.
Yeah, there we go. Oh dear. Together towards tomorrow, and it's true. we've all got to do this together
Yeah.
to get to tomorrow. And tomorrow looks like selling cars, looking after customers, generating bookings for workshops, exciting new products that are coming, providing a great customer experience again for all of it. And that is a benefit to everyone.
What is there anything that you've tried that just didn't work? Is there anything that just doesn't work in that space? Maybe traditional marketing ploys that we might deploy in other spaces, but is there anything that you would advise against? If someone's in your situation trying to develop a dealer network or trying to develop a franchise, what's the no-nos?
What's the no-nos? I think, to be honest, we spoke about earlier, kind of expecting people to be doing things. That's a no-no. You've really got to keep an eye on it and make sure they are doing it. I don't mean that with like an iron fist kind of element, but just because you said, please, could you do this?
Tickling it
this
along.
is a great idea, doesn't mean that people immediately agree with you and are going to do it. You've got to follow it up. You've got to make sure it's working for them and in their territory. They know their area best, and we leave that to them. But ultimately, you've got to play along.
How does it work when you're thinking about targeting and KPIs for your work and your specific? I get that Suzuki will have a big number somewhere, and we don't need to be that specific if it's sort of secretive information. But of course, they're going to have a big number they're aiming for, and that's going to split by region, and that's going to be split probably by the region bosses by dealership.
Yeah.
So how do you then overlay on that, like your own KPIs for, what good looks like for you? What are you looking for?
I mean, we see we get a very regular update on forecasting from the business. They're quite open with that to the teams that need to know. So we know how it's tracking. So we know if that car is falling a bit behind, we need to try and encourage more dealer usage of it. That would be how I fit into that element, as it were. So, if we've not sold as many Suzuki Vitaras in this quarter so far. Well, let's have a look at what we've got for that. Let's send out another email to the network, remind that we've got lots of good Vitara stuff going. Go and use it, go and promote it, and hopefully that they will then get involved, download it, and start using it, and we'll see Vitara sales and leads pick up off the back of that. I am a part of that with the national activity. But that's kind of how I fit into it.
And is there also sort of triggers in regional asset? Do you go down to dealer level and you go, well, we're expecting that from that dealer. It's nowhere there. Let's keep an eye on that. Do they need a bit more support? Does that sort of thing happen in that space?
It does happen, yeah. With our RSM team, regional sales managers, I must say I've never worked with a more supportive group of RSMs in terms of marketing as well. They get it, they understand it's important, which is great. And they might have dealers who need some support. Yeah, they're not quite where they need or want to be. So they'll call me. Maybe we'll go and have a visit with them together, and we'll come up with a new plan, and we'll try and get them there. Because that all gets us to tomorrow together.
Yeah, absolutely.
See what I did there?
Yeah, and I think you've touched on something that's often a common topic in our world here on the UnEDited show, and if you're sat there in your marketing world, it's probably a common topic in yours. The relationship between sales and marketing, and it strikes me you've got, again, a bit of a unique way into that, where you haven't got a chip on your shoulder about it because you've had to do it. And so probably the reason that those regional sales guys are so compliant and positive is because you speak their language. I think that's a big part of the understanding perspectives. You're probably tooling them up with the right information and the right assets, and you're listening to them and all that sort of stuff, which I found in the past isn't always guaranteed. It's not always guaranteed at all.
No, and I've worked with manufacturers before where they just think everyone has an abundance of time and marketing is their core focus. And when I'm sat there in a meeting with the RSM and the sales manager who also looks after the marketing when they can, I've sat in your shoes. I know how this works.
Yeah.
So I know what your day-to-day looks like, but this is, you need to focus on some marketing. This is what I would recommend you do, within the time frame that you've got, that's going to make a difference, because you've got people to answer to. And I've sat there in exactly the same position. The powers that be above that person are going to ask the same questions that I got.
Absolutely. I want to come back to the Suzuki way, translating good, different, and that big campaign. But it's season 2 of the UnEDited podcast, and I might start this very special element, which is Louie's lightning round. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
If you're listening and you think he didn't sound excited, that's because I looked off to the right because Louie was in the background and he's not very well today. Can we get a cough, Louie? Yeah, there you go. That's Louie. Now, I don't know what's going to come into our ear holes here, if you pardon the expression. Let's see what happens in Louie's lightning round.
No time to think. No messing around. Get your answers ready.
Wow.
It's Louie's lightning round.
I like it.
That's pretty good production values, more than he put into my intro. But yeah, let's. And are we going for yellow, Louie?
Yes. What's your thoughts on petrol or electric cars?
Oh, are you a petrol head or a? Well, I think we've. Go on.
Petrol, electric. Well, I mean, I love petrol cars. Don't get me wrong. However, I do like speed, and honestly, the out and out speed that you can torque out of an EV is incredible.
So Suzuki, we were talking before, a little bit late to the party, better late than never, etc., etc. New electric proposition coming out. I think.
e-Vitara launches very soon.
Get your e-Vitara in all good dealerships, 135 of them around the UK.
That's it.
I guess petrol or electric. At the moment, I'm on a bicycle. So I guess my equivalent to this is pedal power or electric bike, and I would stay pedal power all the time. What's the point? I know that's not quite relevant, but as a saving the world bicycle guy who's not allowed to drive at the moment, I've got to go with that.
No, good for you.
Yeah, helping out.
If you weren't in this industry, what would you be doing instead?
Oh, wow. Lightning round indeed. If I wasn't in this industry, what would I be doing? Probably something totally different. Probably outdoors as well.
Is this the dream, or is this
the total polar opposite?
I think it's always a hard one, this, because once you've been doing what you do for some time, you're kind of institutionalized, aren't you? You can't work out what the other. Yeah.
And because I like it, I never sit there and think, God, I wish I did that job instead.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't get me wrong, I get pretty envious of people who are like building a house on a lovely summer's day. I mean, I get hideously sunburnt in about 5 minutes.
I don't think you'd last.
No.
If you're not watching this is a fair-skinned, slightly red-haired gentleman. Yeah. I think he'd be a crisp in seconds. But if you run an outdoor business that wants to develop a dealer network, you can get in contact and see what's going on. Last of Louie's lightning round.
What's the best marketing campaign you've ever seen?
Wow, what a segue. Now, let's agree this. You're about to try and say, well, the Good Different campaign, but we'll come back to that. Let's say non-Suzuki.
Non-Suzuki. Okay. I've got a couple, both cars related.
Go for it.
Unfortunately.
You can talk about whatever you want.
And I think they're my favourite, to be honest, because of how true they are to the brand.
Okay.
How well they convey the product, kind of that emotional attachment to them. And just how they make you feel afterwards.
Okay.
The first one would be the Honda Cog advert. Quite old now. Just a genius advert.
Remind us of if we're not all savvy to the Honda Cog advert, and maybe we'll find it and put it in these show notes, but describe what it was.
So it's kind of like there's a name for the pattern of how it happens. And kind of the engineering behind it. But basically, it's all different parts of the car in isolation.
Yeah.
So you might have a literal cog from the engine. It's rolling down a slope. And it hits a windscreen wiper that knocks a tyre over, which then rolls a little bit and then, starts the radio.
I remember it.
And that one. And it kind of plays out through that. And at the end, it finishes up with the car. The car in that advert is there for about, 4 seconds. But it's so captivating throughout the rest of it.
I think it plays to there was a bit of a when's that? Probably about 5-6 years ago, something like that.
Oh, probably even more than that, yeah.
But there was definitely a spate of those campaigns and adverts where something hits,
and it became a trend after that.
And definitely, I can remember that happening. I think it also shows a confidence. I love campaigns that don't show the product, which is a crazy. But they show it either very late or they reveal in an interesting way, and I think that's a great idea. What's the second of the?
The other one is a campaign for Audi. Another one of the reasons why I really loved working with them. And I worked at BBH as well in London, and it was them who created the advert. I sound like I'm gushing now. I'm not, I promise. This was the advert for the R8, and it's on a dyno, and obviously within legal reasons, you're not allowed to show cars going fast. This is a performance car.
Oh, I didn't know that. So is that a fact?
Yeah,
You
it's a
can't.
fact.
You can't show it going. That's
too
why in
fast.
every one they're just pulling into a drive. Or
Yeah, and there's always a thing at the bottom, driven by professional drivers on a closed road,
Yeah.
etc., blah, blah, blah. They've put the car on a dyno. It can go as fast as it likes. They've stripped off a load of the back end. The advert is,
and the dyno is
focused-
just the running. It just runs on a platform.
Yeah, that's
now.
it. So
Yeah.
that's a large piece of equipment that you put a car on. You can drive the car, but it's held down, but the wheels still turn.
You might see it on your MOT test.
That's it. You would see it on your
but not
MOTs
like this.
to test the brakes, but not like this. So this is used for tuning cars. So you would put it on there and see how the engine performs at, max speed, or throughout the revs. And it's entirely focused on that car, literally going hell for leather. They've stripped off loads of back end, so there is flames coming out, and it is nothing but noise. And that
Pornography for petrol
absolutely,
heads.
yeah.
There's nothing
Audio
better.
porn, it is.
I think there's also something great about things where you see things being tested. And my analogy to that's in no way as sexy or as exciting for a petrol head, but I think demonstrates a similar sort of angle is if you're listening to this, go to IKEA this weekend and see if they've got a big perspex box with a chair in it with just something pushing it again and again and again. And actually, in a former life, when I was working for Suzuki Marine, one of the things we were pitching and trying to get off the ground is one of the ideas was how resilient and proven the engine technology was, and it would run at a certain rev limit. So I said, let's just stick it in a tank and get a camera on it and just let people tune in to see that at any time. Demonstrative advertising is something that I think is underused, and when you see it, you go, "Oh God, that really wets my whistle." So I think it was the flames on the Audi that probably got you though. But
it was good. But it's it's a great one of the product, but it's also from a marketing perspective, it's such a clever way around the rules and the challenges.
And I think that's a lesson for if you're listening and you sit in a regulated space, finance, medical, pharma. How do you work around those rules, and how do you use innovation or creativity? Which is this is why I love this. It's part of the conversation as a creative director. Sometimes you can come up with an idea that lets you do something that you're not allowed to do, and that's a great example.
I'll tell you what, I've just thought of a better answer
for
what would I be doing if I wasn't in this?
Go on then.
I would love to be an Imagineer for Walt Disney.
Wow. Well, now we're on the same path. I thought I was going to work for Walt Disney when I was a kid.
Oh, amazing, yeah.
So all I did is draw Disney cartoons the whole time. Favorite Disney character?
I mean,
it's Jessica Rabbit, obviously. No, that's not Disney. It's Ariel. Sorry, it's Ariel. Right, let me pull you back.
Wally.
Wally.
He doesn't say much, but he's a lovable little guy.
There you go. Right, let me pull you back. So, Louie, wonderful lightning round, even in your ill state. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But we were talking there about great campaigns, and one of the ones I wanted to talk to you about is that good, different sort of creative vehicle, I guess you call it. Is it a campaign or is it a whole structure? I guess
it's a brand.
It's the whole brand, of essence and structure. So
if
you're listening to this and you don't know what we're talking about, let's give them an overview of what it is, what it means to you in the business, and how it works.
So good, different is our brand. So you see our Suzuki logo and everything, and it will say good, different underneath. It's not a campaign. It's very much entwined with the brand, and it really encapsulates what Suzuki stands for itself as a brand, the products, and our customers. And what we stand for. What's our reason to exist? Basically, we are good and we are slightly different. We're not after world domination. We know that, so we're going to stay doing what we do best. The products that we offer in the best possible way for the customers who want them as well. Yes, we'd always like more, absolutely, and we want to tell the world about Suzuki and the good things that we do, but they might not be for everyone. But there are lots of people who would be a great car for.
And where did it come from? Was this a UK initiative? Was this a Japanese initiative?
UK initiative.
And how? And you probably. Do you know how it played out? Because I imagine pitching good, different, or getting to that stage, it was probably quite agile and bit by bit. Or do you think it was just one idea and they bought it straight away? because it's a brave thing to be so honest and not. Often we're looking for big claims, and Good Different is a modest, realistic, honest take on where Suzuki is in the market. Mm-hmm. But if I was the creative director pitching it on the first day, I would be a little bit nervous that it would play in the right way. So is there any sort of backstories on how that played out?
Yeah, I mean, it's the sum of research, basically. Some of the previous Suzuki adverts have always been fun. We had a Swift advert that was a bit like bumper car dodgems at the fairground ride. So we're not averse to big, bright and colourful, as it were, but attaching Good Different to it and that tone of voice. As you say, they're modest but brave. It's bold, but it's not cocky. We're sure of ourselves, but we're not. We're not silly about it, as it were. And that's been a challenge to get everyone on board with that. It's, as I say, it's bold and it's brave, but it's not crazy. It's not wacky. So yes, our TV advert might tell you the backstory of how we've created our cars in a humorous way. It's like we whisper secrets into every bolt that goes in them, and this is the original TV campaign. The horn sounds like a whole choir. It's funny, but it goes to show what we put into the car, and then the brand.
So I get this. I'm listening to you. I get this from a customer point of view. If I think my dad had a Suzuki Jimny, I can remember being driven around.
Great car.
It's a classic car. They're still out. Some of them are still out on the road. That's the other thing.
Loads of them still going.
Incredible. Yeah. Like the original ones, I really love, and they brought out a new version of it. Not that new, but I'm talking about way back in the 80s.
No, still a modern Jimny. Yeah.
But there is a certain type of customer, and I can definitely when you think about looking at the Suzuki adverts, looking at how they work, I can see that fit. It really works. How do you translate Good Different to Bob, who's a dealer that's trying to make money, and he's in Herefordshire, for want of a better? How did it play to them, and how does it work in your role as a dealer? How do you take that in and let them work with it?
So you need to explain it. You've got to communicate about it, and you've got to convey to them how it helps them do their job to the customer. So it's kind of like it's twofold, really. You've got to get them on board and aligned with it, and provide them the information for them to tell the customers. That's what it's about.
And tactically, what does that look like? Are you rolling that out in conversations? Is there like a dealer network event where it's launched? Like, how did it get rolled out?
Yeah, so it's in-person events. We're really good at pulling the network together in physical events, which is great. We do a lot of video broadcasts to them as well, quite regularly, from the directors and everything else. We'll send emails, letters,
anything you need to get them
we
to
need
drink
to
that
get
Kool-Aid and be part of that.
After that, it's point of sale in the showroom, and it literally echoes all of those points. It's in our training, it's in the marketing assets. Something we do a lot of is some product pillars. So we have TEQT. Tech for all the technology you need in the car. We don't have a long options list. We've got hardly any options. It's just already in the car already. Yeah. If you want heated seats, it's already on it. It's not an option. It's already there. Efficiency is standard. All our cars are hybrid, and then we've got our eVitara coming very soon. They're all very efficient. Great stuff. Q for quality. So they're all very reliable. We now offer a 10-year warranty on them. So
which is pretty market. That's a pretty big statement within the market.
It's a big number. For every year you get your Suzuki serviced at a Suzuki dealer, you get an extra year's warranty until it's 10 years old. So
strategically, and we touched on this earlier before we started recording, do you think that's a play to get them to buy it, or do you think there's also a play there to keep them connected, or or does it help the second-hand resale, or what? Why would they go in with a 10-year?
It's all of the above, to be honest. If you buy a new car, you get a few years warranty with it anyway. If you want to keep it for longer, which some of our customers do, well, you can keep that warranty going because we believe in the car, so you should as well.
And it plays to the audience, sort of the typical audience for Suzuki. I'm sure it's fully researched and very carefully planned out, but I can imagine that really resonating with my dad. Like on a practical level.
Yeah.
Often we come up with these complicated things, but the best thing to do is just imagine it with someone that actually, he would value that over many other things that maybe Audi would use from Prestige. There's different categories there. Okay.
And the final one is T for trust. Trust us, trust the product, trust our dealers who are going to look after you, provide you a good customer experience. We're big on customer experience as well, and looking after people.
No, that's really cool. And I think when I think about the dealer network, how do you measure their sort of do you have to like sort of categorize whether they're fully involved in that and using that? I guess with your sales experience, a good different is a really good sales hook to go, well, you could have what everyone else has got, but how do you evaluate whether that's working? Is it feedback, or how are you?
The pillar element is part of our behavioural, let's call it a mystery shop. It's a mystery shop aspect. The salesperson needs to run through those elements with the customer. But it's good for the customer to know.
And as a brand, are you sending people into mystery shop to what, and you'll feed back and say, someone came in, we're not going to tell you who or when, but you were rubbish. Or you were great.
Needs
Let's
work.
be glass. Yeah. So how regular would that happen within a car dealership? Any, with Suzuki or any, but is that
It
common?
could happen once a quarter.
Okay.
It could do, yeah.
Okay, so that's really good. What I want to round off on though is how all of this comes together into some sort of metrics, reporting. We're marketeers. I'm on the creative side. I'm probably the less experienced in being interested in all of the data, although I love it. I'm sure
Everyone loves data.
Oh, it's great. But how do you put metrics around the relationship and the marketing engine, and how are you really measuring the numbers on all of this, and how does that come together for you and in your role and Suzuki as a whole?
I mean, hey, we live in a world of numbers, especially in automotive.
Data.
Leads, test drive, sales. That's what our dealers are interested in. For us in the dealer marketing space, it's logins. So we've got our portal. How many people are logging in from the dealers? If they're not, why not? Once they're there, I always talk about it as our shop. So we have our shop, which is the portal, and then we're stacking the shelves. Are they using the assets? Are they using what's on the shelf, basically?
So sort of what are they consuming in the
What are they
shelf?
consuming, yeah. Are they downloading it, and then are they actually using it? If they've downloaded a social pack, has it actually gone out on their socials?
Oh, so you'll look at it and go, it's download, but I haven't seen them actually push that out.
Yeah. If no one's downloading it, why not? Let's get on the phone, and we literally will, and we'll find out why not. And we look at this every quarter because it takes us time to make these things. If nobody wants to use it,
What's the point?
What's the point?
I mean,
we'll just redirect the time elsewhere.
It's a kind of agency mentality there as well, which is really you're kind of almost operating like an agency within that. But in a different world, I run a partnership sort of innovation network. Well, it's not sort of; it is an innovation and business network, and there's a lot of partners involved in that. And we were making tons of stuff, thinking, and you look at it and you go, no one's using this. And that went on for quite a long time. And sometimes the braver thing is to say, well, you can't have anything unless you ask for it, because you're not actually doing anything. Take it back and reduce that time and free that time up to actually engage with them instead.
Yeah.
And we found that started to shift it. So I think it sounds like fresh eyes when you came in gave you that insight, and you built off there for a long time.
Yeah.
So where next? What's going to happen? Where are you heading to? What are your hopes, dreams and aspirations in the role you're in? What are you hoping to do in the future? And what's your perception of where, and there's quite a few questions there, but what's your perception of where marketing in the auto sector is really going now?
Okay.
Pick one.
Where next? More dealer engagement. We've got a new car launching, which is really exciting. I love new cars, and I've even been there. We're launching new brands. And that's exciting too. So new stuff is always great, and we need to do that and launch that successfully together. It's a big, important thing for all of us. So we're in the thick of creating new suites of assets and everything for that. So that's our current next, as it were.
Challenge,
yeah. In terms of bigger things, I think it's navigating the digital world, to be honest.
What are you worried about in that? Or what do you think the challenges are in that space?
I mean, I don't want to jump on the AI buzzword bandwagon. But
it's kind of unavoidable, isn't it?
If you look at stats of websites, for a lot of things are fell off a cliff.
Plummeting.
Earlier in the year, I've got a friend that owns a car forum, and it fell 50% in a week. And that's a second income for him.
Yeah.
And it's gone nearly.
And are you putting that down to people just turning to ChatGTP and just looking at stuff on there?
Yeah.
Or
between that and Google's latest updates, it's hurting things. But this is, we have to navigate this. But that's also how dealers do it. Gone are the days of where they could do a Facebook advert, put 50 quid behind it, and generate, a great number of leads and sell some cars.
But some of those guys are still just getting to
Still
that
there.
stage. And
Yeah.
that what I find really challenging in our role as an agency, where you've got such a plethora of different levels of it, is some people are not even there, and they're trying to get there, and you're trying to do that, and you're trying to help facilitate that. But I had a conversation the other day with people going, we need to build a website for this. And I found we make money from building websites. I just found myself saying, why? Who's going to look at it?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? We're doing some quite interesting stuff around visibility through AI. And there's some interesting businesses that are coming out to try and help that search sort of journey, which is with early days and playing around with it. But it's almost, if I've got my cake, my marketing cake and my budget, it is changing where that money would go now, for sure. I mean, we're leaning a lot more into more intelligent programmatic for advertising rather than going through the traditional methods. I mean, are there things that have changed since you've been at Suzuki in terms of that cake and that share of spend, or has it all stayed the same for you guys? Is it shifting at all?
No, it's shifting, but that's us helping to create that shift as well. Regional press and people doing press ads can be expensive, and you don't know what you're getting for it. I'm not saying don't do them, because it's a good bit of awareness activity, and if somebody knows their area and knows everybody reads that paper, then good for them. But if you want some data and some stats, we need to be doing something more digital, and aligning that thought process and giving them the confidence to do it, that it's the right thing to do, is all part of it. Then obviously there's money behind that as well. And what we're trying to do is provide more, I hope, kind of opt-in programs. So if you don't have the time to do a digital campaign, you can opt into it, you pay the money for it, but we'll ultimately activate it and manage and optimize
and
it
it'll be
by some experts.
A cost of it, at least it'll be a stage one cost.
Exactly
Something's
that.
going, that
Yeah.
bed of sort of...
And it's done by experts.
How do you help people, and you may not, and it's fine if you don't, but how do you... There's a lot of noise online. How do you help people bring sort of like authentic experiences or events into the mix? Do they do a lot in the dealer net? Every so often, well, in the old days, you used to go past a dealership and there's a load of balloons, and they'd have some sandwiches. I can remember it. And we used to do stuff for Mercedes back in the day where they have their best clients come in on the launch. Is that still a big part of that? And do you see that authentic bit growing in value? Because there's so much noise in the digital world. You need it, you've got to do it, but how do you supplement that with sort of stuff that's a bit more physical?
Yeah, I mean, face-to-face stuff is still has a place. We'll still do launch events because, the great thing about all this is really there's still very much space in the world for dealerships, because people really do still want to
the recommendation.
see and touch a car, sit in it, drive it, and kind of finish that journey with someone. They've done so much more research now before they've stepped foot in the dealership, but they still want to do that. Some people are happy to buy online.
Do you see that access to better research and knowledge means that people tend to be sales qualified leads more often now when they hit the dealer? There used to be, what was it, tire kicking they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
Is
It's
there
just a
less?
fun Saturday morning out.
Yeah. Is there less?
There's less of that now. Yeah, people are so well informed, and that's been the case for some time. But if they've taken the time to set foot in the dealership, they want something.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, we're coming towards the end of our chat, and what I often like to do is put you on the spot and just ask, well, what I'm going to do is there a bit of advice that you've been given along the way at Suzuki or any of the other places, or from your early days, that sticks in your mind as something that you've tried to remember and stick to over the years, that you can pass on and play forward into the rest of the listeners that are in the marketing world?
Yeah, I think particularly relevant for automotive industry in total, especially on sales side of things, is something an old manager of mine used to say, which is do what you've said you're going to do.
It's one of my favourite sayings.
Louie,
have you heard me say that before?
Never.
He's a liar.
And we used to say it to the sales team all the time. If you've said to that customer you're going to ring them back in 30 minutes,
You do it.
you do it. Even if you've not managed to find out how many owners that car's had, or whatever it is they've asked you to do, ring them back in 30 minutes and say, I haven't got it yet, but I'm still getting it, and I'll ring you back. Don't leave it an hour and say, sorry, I couldn't find it.
I
Because they've
think
lost that trust is then falling off a cliff.
I think it's so important. If you're sat here and you're in an agency, this piece of advice is vital. You know, it's something that is slipping a little bit, I find. But one of the reasons guys and girls, not girls like you, guys, people in-house trust agencies is they do what they say when they're going to say it. And you don't need to mess up more than once for them to say, oh, there's something wrong there. They're not. So it's something that especially when you don't know what you're doing, which sometimes we're brought into situations where you don't know what you're doing. If you say you're going to find an answer, find the answer.
Yeah. And
if you haven't got the answer, as you say, be upfront about it and go, like, I've looked at it, I've got these things, I don't think it's right. What do you think? But yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice that a lot of people have lost sight of over the years. And what it leads to is sort of slightly flimsy delivery and slightly sort of, am I going to get that? And whether it's a colleague, an agency or a dealer, you sort of know the ones that always do what they say. And you also know the ones that are a bit flaky, and you sort of that translates into trust, as you say. So good piece of advice. Well, Tom, I want to thank you. If people want to get in contact and stuff like that, are you happy for people to send you ideas, or do you never darken your door? What would you like?
No, I'm always happy to hear new ideas.
So petrol heads, possible dealers, dealerships, etc. We'll put Tom's details in the comments below. But for now, I just want to thank you for joining us.
No, thank you very much for having me.
And wrap up another unedited conversation.
That's a wrap on another episode of UnEDited. Make sure to like, subscribe and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. Find all of our updates on your favourite social media and podcast platforms. Just search for the UnEDited podcast.